final decision. Well, Mr. Green,
Good
as
morning,
always,
sir.
you're here. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Mark Maitland from the Garden of Paradise Funeral Home.
And I am Errol Green from Exodus Funeral Home.
And with us this morning is a very, very special guest. You see, based on what happened on Monday and all the questions that started coming, even after the program ended, we had to get a trained professional to come in to have the discussion with us, to answer the questions if we have cause today, and basically to help you to understand in a better way what we're trying to dispense to you. With us this morning is the abled Marjorie Horton, a certified counselor for over 21 years now, so she is no kid in the business. She's been around the block a couple of times with this.
She know how to treat people when they are grieving and the emotions is acting up and everything. She is the person who will know exactly what to say.
And as you know, we have to get the professionals to talk to you, because whilst we want to facilitate having the information out there, if there are individuals who are so trained and so educated in a particular field, that's exactly what we are going to do. So today we're going to continue our discussion on grief. I want to say thanks to those who called in on Monday. Your input, they were very, 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 very valuable. And even after the program, I tell you, we have received calls and persons have been talking to us. And for that reason, we had to ensure that this morning we have the professional with us who will help us address the situation. Miss Horton, Mrs. Horton rather.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, and thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for being here, Mrs. Horton.
All right, so we have been discussing grief, which is the natural response to loss, since Monday, and we were at the place where we were going to discuss the 5 stages of grief. But for those who are joining in for the first time, let me take the time out to welcome you. The program is Final Decision. It is aired on a Monday and on a Thursday at 11:30 here on Omega KLAS 89.9 FM. The aim of the program is to ensure that we provide valuable information that will help you navigate through the funeral industry and also through the final disposition and understanding of the processes involved with this for a loved one. We talked about, just to summarize, we were at the stage where we were talking about Mrs. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who wrote the book on death and dying, and in 1969 she came up with the 5 stages of grief, and it was based on her experiences that she came up with the 5 stages. Whilst Mr. Green and I can have the discussion based on what we have researched, Mrs. Horton will help us to really have a better understanding of this. Mrs. Horton, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Maitland. So I'll just basically give a summary of the different stages. So as you rightly said, there are 5 stages. So the first one is denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Those are the 5 stages. So denial is the first stage, and this stage is the first stage of grief, and it is characterized by disbelief and emotional numbness. You are fearful of accepting the truth about the loss. So maybe you are saying to yourself, like, she was okay the last time I left her. Maybe you went to the hospital and sometimes our loved ones, they are looking good in our opinion.
Right.
And the next thing you get a call to say, this person is no longer with us.
Yes.
So that's the denial stage. This cannot be happening to me at this time.
And Mr. Green, how often have we heard of the death of somebody, only to hear another person recount that I just spoke with the person yesterday or 5 minutes ago, or we just had an interaction somewhere, some form. We just came off the same bus.
And what I want our counselor to explain to us, how this can affect someone, because the denial stage, it's a very common one. As Mr. Maitland said, we just talk to the person. We have an appointment, have engagement.
Right.
So it can't be. It can't happen. This is a very common one that we have to face.
Yes, because as you said, it's denial.
Right.
You don't believe that this thing happened. So you're going to take some time for you to get over this stage. And for you to move along, you have to first accept that yes, this person is no longer. Right throughout the process, you're going to go through the different stages, and note the final stage is really the acceptance stage. So after you come out of the denial stage, you might be angry, you know.
Talk,
So
talk
it's
to us a little
really
bit more about the second stage,
the anger
anger
stage.
stage.
All right. So the anger stage now is where the persons, you may be directed at other persons. So remember now, you don't believe. You're still in the denial stage. So
Right.
it's flowing. So you don't believe that this person is no longer there. So you're now blaming.
Somebody else.
Yeah. So maybe you're going to blame the relatives. Maybe if it were a case that the person was at the hospital, you could say it was the nurse's fault. It was the doctor's fault.
And we hear that ever so often.
And
Right. So that's,
sometimes they even blame themselves
yes.
of not doing what they think they should have done.
Right. So right, they start blaming them. So you have the self-blame and they start blaming other persons. So this is really the stage where they are trying to mask the feelings, like the bitterness and the resentment. All of those is basically masking how you really feel while you're projecting your blame onto other persons.
All right. All right. Whilst we are carrying the program, let me just remind our listeners of the numbers to call in. They can call 876-968-8117. That's 876-968-8117. Toll free 877-494-0253. And for our overseas listeners, the number is 1954 900 4310. So that's 1954 900 4310. Those are the numbers to call. So back to our guest here. We are discussing grief and or grieving, and we were at the stage we were talking about the second stage of grieving, which is anger. And we were in the discussion that sometimes individuals may be angry at other persons or even angry at themselves.
Yes, Mr. Maitland, and because we really want, as funeral directors or providers, we want to guide the general public at large
Right.
as to how you handle this situation. Because when you are grieving, sometimes it seems you're not only hurting yourself when you are grieving, but you can also hurt others
Indirectly.
indirectly, right? You can even also destroy something good.
Right.
So we want to help you as to how to deal with that situation.
And even in the anger stage, sometimes they're even angry at God.
Yes.
You say, God, why did you allow this to happen to me at this time?
Yes.
Why me? Why this is happening to me? So some of those are questions that they would ask themselves.
Is it a fact that there are sometimes in these instances, for example, persons who are heavily religious, faith-based, they will blame God for, say, not allowing their relatives to heal, or they could reason with God about how many times they have prayed and God hasn't answered their prayers. Are there situations where these things do happen?
Yes, and now you're talking more like we're going to the bargaining.
Oh.
Yes, so that so you see the stages, so the denial, the anger. Now they start to bargain. So God, yes, some of what you said, maybe they were praying and they were hoping for this healing, and the healing didn't come.
And it also, when that one is considered to be the best one in the family, the provider,
Yes,
the breadwinner,
right.
the one who keep the family together, then so that,
From what you have discussed so far, I can see where denial and anger walks hand in hand. Because one, just to use this as an example, you have been praying for the healing. And so you are actually expecting the person to heal and not die.
Right.
And so when information comes to you of the death of your loved one, it is natural for you to say, no, that cannot be, because you believe God for this. And you know it's going to happen. So how is it then now that God is going to allow you? How is it that God is going to disappoint you like that?
And also in a situation when, you have prayed and you have seen turnaround, you have seen changes.
Yes.
So you have a hope that this person is going to live and not die.
Yes.
So as you said, Mr. Maitland, you see where the denial and the anger walk hand in hand, also even with the bargain.
Yeah, and because of the hope that we have as faith-based persons, yes, because you have the hope that, God is going to hear my prayer. God is going to do something for my loved one. Yes, man, he's the breadwinner of the family. God, you're going to bring him back. So really, when God don't allow it to go the way we want it to go, then they are going to be angry and have the denial feelings.
Whoa, this is a very, very, very...
And in that grieving stage on counselor, one can also be drawn away or turned off from God because of how they feel about the situation.
All right.
So we have to be careful how you grieve.
We are going into deep waters, friends. We are up on a break. We're going to take the break now. When we come back, we're going to pick up where we just left off with Mr. Green with the discussion on grief. So we're going into a break. We'll be back with you shortly.
Won't last forever. And if you trust in the Lord, your nights will turn to day. Win over $1 million in cash and prizes in the Yummy Summer Competition. Purchase any 4 of your favorite Yummy pastry. Write your name and number on your receipt. Send in with your Yummy salesman or drop off at the nearest supermarket or Yummy agency. 28 weekly prizes, 4 winners every week, plus grand draw August 28th for a laptop. $60,000, $30,000, plus a Yummy basket and back-to-school vouchers. Grand prize, a family weekend for 4 at the Holiday Inn. It's the Yummy Summer Competition, authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
This is your television and radio preacher, Bishop Dr. G.G. Cooper, asking you to join me on KLAS Omega Radio 89.1, 89.9 every Sunday at 6 p.m. for revival time. Enjoy 60 minutes of old-fashioned, Holy Ghost anointed, yoke-destroying, burden-removing praise celebration. It will get better. It will get better. Won't last forever. Won't last forever. And if you trust in the Lord, your nights will turn to day. Just remember.
Indeed, it will get better because after all, it came to pass. You are listening to Final Decision. I am Mark Maitland, and with me as always is Errol Green. We are on the topic of grief. We have been since Monday. With us today is our very special guest, Mrs. Marjorie Orton, who is a trained counselor. And before the break, Mr. Green, we were discussing the bargaining stage where anger and bargaining can be blended together. And you refer to the scenario where, repeat the scenario that you referred to earlier.
Yeah, as I said, during the grieving stage, you know, one can be turned off by God or their faith being, you know, shift from God because not expecting this to happen.
Right.
And it happened.
Right.
You know, because sometimes, you know, the hope is there, the person start to turn around, you start to see changes.
Right.
And then the person die.
And then they start to ask God, how can you allow that?
How can you allow that?
This is something. Weigh on this for us, please. Weigh on this for us.
All right, so I'm thinking this is where, as we always say, our faith is tested. This is where we have to know the God that we serve. And we understand that is not all the while we ask for something, it's going to come our way. So that is why your faith is really tested to say, God, are you really there for me? And we have to remember also that the Lord said all things work together for good to those who love him. So this is where we really grief. We have to dig deep in our faith. We have to know the God that we serve. It's not a mere say you're a Christian, but you have to be reassured that the God that loves you, he loves you even when you're grieving.
All right.
In addition to that, counselor, I want to say to our listeners that, you know, this grieving situation is very serious.
It is.
And a lot of people lose faith in God after losing their loved one, not expecting for them to die. But I also want to say to you that God did not promise that we're going to live forever.
Exactly.
Unless.
Right? Right?
Unless.
You know, and I also want to remind you that it was once appointed unto man to die.
Mm-hmm.
So it is something that it is compulsory.
But the fact of the matter is, even though we do understand the scriptures that yes, it is appointed unto man wants to die. As humans, we would,
We want
and we would wish that our loved ones
Will live a
stay
little
with
longer.
us forever. All right, Mr. Green,
Yes.
let me talk to you on this point, because especially for us as parents, parents expect that their children will bury them. It's not always an easy thing when parents have to bury children. So yes, Mr. Green, we do understand that it is an appointment that we must meet. But how do you, as an individual, and yes, I know we'd have had situations where we have to assist persons through this, but how do you, as an individual, know when a parent expects that her son is supposed to bury her and she has to be burying her son?
I am very happy that Mr. Maitland touched on that topic, and I'm very happy that as we bring this to the here, you know, we are here to assist people not only to make better decisions, but also to bring certain things to your awareness, you know. And as Mr. Maitland rightly said, we are expecting that our children would bury us. And what we are seeing now, a twist in society where parents are now burying their children. And I'm telling you, Mr. Maitland, what I am experiencing in the industry, that's a grieving process that you wonder if it will ever end. Because I have known people who are grieving for years because they have to bury their children.
Mrs. Sutton,
Go ahead.
weigh in for us, please. What do you say to a mother?
To a mother who is grieving. Grieving process, Mr. Green, lasts a long time. It can last for years, believe me. So whether or not it is a parent burying a child or the opposite, it lasts for long. It all goes back also to the connection, what bonding, what sort of relationship you had with
I
that
know an
person.
individual right now, Madam Councillor, who is grieving, and she have one son, and she'll lose her son, and she'll never have another child because of how hurt, you know, she is at the moment. You know, she can't see herself
Moving on.
to have another child because she fear that the same thing might happen again.
Mrs.
But she would
Mrs.
need
Sutton,
some help.
We don't have all the time, but with the little time that you have, reach out to this person for me.
To such an individual, I would say, and when you go through the stages, you have to come to that final stage where we call the acceptance. So you would have the sadness or the depression stage, and then you will go to the acceptance. I'm wondering if she's stuck between one of those stages, so she's not yet at the acceptance stage where she move on, because it's when you get to the acceptance stage, you said, okay, yes, I understand this have happened, but you know, I have to move on with my life. So for the fact that she's stuck in one of the stages, I'm not sure if she's still in the denial or the anger or maybe the depression stage, why she haven't gone ahead to maybe have another child or what you call it, foster parent you can adopt if she can't have. So I'm not sure, but she seems to stuck in one of the stages, so she would need some help.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
That
man,
would
she would
recommend
need
that the
some
person-
help to process along the way.
Not just
where
some
that-
help, but professional help.
Yes, so because maybe she's still between grief and trauma, so she would have to work it out with a counselor.
Friends, we try to not only provide the information that you need, but we also try to provide the help that you will need. Again, let me just pause here to share our numbers with you. You don't only have to call us when you want us to provide funeral services for a relative. You can call us so we can direct you to the individuals who may be able to help you or help a friend or help a family member. My contact number is 876-870-5848. You can WhatsApp me. You can call me, Mr. Green.
845-3528. That is 1-876-845-3528.
Miss Houghton, would you like to share your number as well? Because you're the professional here.
876-379-7593.
And friends, if you have missed anything or you'd want for us to assist you in getting to someone, you can always call my number. You can call Mr. Green's number, and we'll be happy to get you the assistance that you need, because we are in the industry. We know what is happening. We see what is happening. We grieve with individuals, especially when we see that individuals are going through years of pain. And it is for that reason why we spend so much time on Monday to talk about grieving with children, because oftentimes children are overlooked. And so we really want to get to the help that is out there for you. And it is a whole lot more than just seeing you through the process of final disposition of your relatives. We want you to understand that we are caregivers in this industry.
Yes, Mr. Maitland. I also want to, for you to understand that grieving will not only bring sadness, and it will not only bring you into a time of depression, but the anger, right? The anger, that's a very crucial part. And especially when a person die in a certain particular way, when the anger comes in, what you find will happen there is revenge.
Yes.
Is revenge, right? And that's why you find that a cycle is going on in Jamaica where you wonder when this is going to stop. And it is striving from how much a person grieve or the way how they grieve the death of their loved one.
It is ironic that you'd say that. I was privy to a social intervention program yesterday, and while I was there, the facilitator she was talking to some young men, and she asked the question, if your relative was killed, and the person who did the killing came to you to say, "Boy, I am really sorry. Thinking about it now, it's something that I'm really sorry about, and I want to apologize to you and to the family." You know what the natural reaction is? Okay, so film time come now.
So I kill him there and then.
Yes, there and then. And so this anger that comes with grieving is something that we don't often pay much attention to.
Right.
Especially in situations where it was through homicide, because all the crime that is happening in our island has caused so much people to be angry.
Yeah, and why there are so many unsolved crime is because some of them is coming out of grief. So it premeditated, you understand? And it's been
reprisal.
planned it's reprisal. So I also want to take this opportunity, to even ask our leaders, our church leaders, our counselors, to get more involved when there's a death in a family, especially when the person die in a certain particular way. Try to get to the family, offer some word of encouragement, because we do not want people to grieve, and there's no wrong or right way to grieve, you understand? But the action it can be very crucial.
Right.
What you do during the time of grieving.
And the thing about Jamaica is that we are a highly faith-based country.
Yeah.
And when somebody dies, even if the individual who dies is not a church attendee, relatives have a pastor that they are going to go to, say pastor, bishop, reverend, whatever they call them, they'll go to. And what you have said, Mr. Green, is really something that we need to look into, because if our faith leaders, and I'm not blaming anybody now, please understand, but I think we can do a little bit more, and I say we because there are oftentimes, based on my role in church, that individuals will come to me to plan services and so on, Mr. Green, listeners. So I say we. Sometimes we need to take the time out to more than just pray with the family or plan the funeral service, but do some follow-up, visit with them even after the interment, because the truth is, that's when the real grief starts,
And try to find out about the other family member, or they are dealing with it.
Or they are dealing
because
with it.
I can tell you this, of a fact, whenever time someone is being murdered, there always a family member who plan to take revenge.
Yes.
This now goes up.
Right.
Somebody have a dead back. So some of the time, not only let us try to deal with the one who we are seeing, but the ones them behind the scene.
I agree.
The cousin.
The ones
the
who you
uncle,
see just standing in the corner and not saying anything or just observing.
just observing, find out how other family member is dealing with this.
True.
Or they are taking it. So we can reach, not only one or two, but the entire family.
I agree, because everybody would need the children. I heard us mentioning the children.
Yes.
And there are many times we believe that children don't grieve.
We talked about that last
they
week.
don't understand. So you have to cater for everybody.
And
all
the children,
family
they hold it
members.
out longer, they grieve even longer than the adult.
Yes, and
Because they are the ones who will be in
acting out.
great denial. And they will not know how to deal with that. And for years.
So
They
now
hold
they're
on to
not
that.
in the denial, but it's just that because they are not mature like us adults.
And the attention that they should have received.
They didn't get it. So sometimes you find that even some of the behavioral issues that we're having, it stem from those unresolved
So
grieving.
question, can there be situations where an experience when you're a child has impacted or affects you in adulthood?
Sure, it does. It does. And that is why it's important to pay attention to those children also. So when you want the parents, the adults to get the counseling, I would say include the children also. Very
Because
important.
we
to
are of
do
the
that.
belief, that children will grow it out.
No, they don't.
They don't grow it out.
No.
What-
They don't grow it
What
out.
happens?
They still
Help us to
remember.
understand what happens in the mind of a
children?
child. Yes, what happens?
You have the losses there,
Mhm.
right? So I'm thinking about a situation that I had once dealing with, and the child said he was 7 when the relative died. I don't remember if it was tragic or whatever. I don't remember, but he was 7. But that person was like a father to him. So can you imagine? Father is taken away. He was so hurt, and he said that person was the person who saw the good in him. So you didn't have that person to motivate him, but that child was given endless problem at school.
So at age 7, he could put all of that.
Yes,
together?
because now I'm talking about that this child is maybe like 10, 11 now, 12, going on to 12. I'm talking about, and he's relating. And believe me, that 11-year-old relating this story cried like it just happened.
Wow.
I want to ask you a question.
Wow.
When a child saw his parents being gunned down and decide that, oh, me have to turn police or have to turn soldier, what is going through the mind of that child? Why you think he or she wanted to go into the police or the army?
You just said it. He wants revenge. That's a traumatic situation, you know. So now he's going to deal with the trauma of seeing his parent gunned down, and then he's now going to deal with the grief. It's a different process. So you have the grieving coming up, mixing up with the trauma. Then you have the revenge, and then maybe nobody understands him. Nobody is listening to him. The attention that he needs, he's not getting. It's a whole...
So when that guy go into the police force now, he'll be still grieving
Yes.
that he will deal with criminal element on a different level.
Right, because he's bitter.
It's bitter.
Yes, man. So all of this bitterness.
So his
is
grieving
inside
not
of
going
him.
to stop for no time.
No, he
He
would
need help.
need help to sort it out, to come to grips, to say this is it. And the acceptance stage is also a stage where forgiveness comes in, you know. So this is where you're going to accept that this thing happened, and now we're talking about the traumatic situation. So you would have to forgive these
Mr. Maitland,
individuals. So you
hold
can
on,
move
cousin.
on.
Mr. Maitland, the writer for this article need to add 1 to the 5, which is forgiveness.
It goes with it. No, it is with
Forgiveness comes with acceptance.
with acceptance.
Yeah.
It's in there because it's when you accept,
Yeah.
you forgive, so you can move on.
Because people often don't like to use the word forgiveness, you know.
It's very important that
You know,
forgive.
but
and
it's very important you
move
forgive.
on.
And people say, I accept it, but, you know,
Can't forgive him.
I forget, I forgive, but I don't forget.
Yeah.
You know, once you forgive, you're supposed to forget it.
Listeners, in the final moments of today's program, of course, we are talking about grief. So in the next 2 minutes that we have, just to go back briefly through the stages of grief that we tried to touch on today: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, and we are so happy that our able guest, Mrs. Marjorie Orton, could have come today to shed light on what we have been discussing since Monday. And again, we want to thank you so much for your listenership each week. Mr. Green, in our final, before I come to you, Mr. Green, Miss Orton, we are about to wrap up. Any final words before we leave? Any final words to our listeners before we leave?
I know that grieving is it's a natural process. It's a difficult process. But listeners, remember, as you grieve, take care of yourself. It's very important that you take very good care of yourself. You can become burnt out in this time. So make sure you're eating well, you're exercising, and you're resting well as much as possible. Self-care is very important during this time.
Thank you very much. Mr. Green, any final words before we go?
Yeah, you know, to our listeners, you are faced with another piece of reality. And, during this time, you have to just learn how to accept it. You have to learn how to accept it and move on. Yes, you'll go through denial, you'll anger, you'll want to bargain, you go through a time of depression, but acceptance at this time is important. And if you do not accept it, you will never get healed. You'll never be healed, and you'll never learn to forgive. Right? So acceptance is very important in the stage of grieving.
Thank you very much, Mr. Green. Thank you very much, Mrs. Orton. Friends, we know the situations that we face daily, they are real. And as per usual, we promise you that we'll try our best to help you get through and get by. We stand ready to assist you, even if we can't of ourselves. We will put you on to the individuals who are able to. Again, I am Mark Maitland from the Garden of Paradise Funeral Home. If you have any questions, you can contact me at 876-870-5848. And of course, that's 870-5848. And of course, my co-pilot, Mr. Errol Green from the Exodus Funeral Home. His contact number is 876-845-3528. Though you don't have to just call us when you want us to provide final care. If you think that we have information that you need or we can put you onto somebody, call us. It won't cost you anything. Call us. We will share the information with you. Again, it's another program under the wraps. It will get better. Indeed, it came to pass. So we'll be here again, same time on Monday, when we do it all over again on Final Decision. Thank you so very much, and do have a wonderful day.
And if you trust in the Lord, your nights will turn to day. Just remember.
This is KLAS FM, the station where you get God and sports. We broadcast on the 89 frequency.